Hi, this is Eternal King bringing you another LOR video today. So I wanted to talk very specifically about a big phenomenon that's happening on Eternal Ladder right now. So if you don't know, Ziggs Poppy is essentially and again, I haven't had any time to play because, like, as stated, I'm kind of a workaholic now as marketing director, but I do have enough time to make like short little 20-minute videos talking about the state of the meta and the news that's happening in the community right now. But what happened is that Ziggs Poppy essentially went 100%, and not 100% across 5 games, and not 100% across 10 games, or 15, or 20, or 25. It had a 100% win rate in 30 games straight up to top 100 Masters. It had a 100% win rate to top 100 Masters when piloted by, an experienced player, or a player who is experienced with the format, someone who is likely even better than myself. I'm not bad. I've been top 100 before. This person might be top 50. They might be top 10. It doesn't matter, but their win rate is insane. They did not lose, right? You don't see someone play 30 games in LOR and not lose, unless they are very good at the game. But beyond that, I want to talk about some of the things that have happened in the meta and the play space that have made aggro overperform in Eternal. Because that's the news part. It's talking about, like, okay, so we now know that Ziggs Poppy is one of the best decks this season. It has a win rate ranging from 70% when piloted by the average person, or 100% when piloted by the best players. It making it one of the best decks in the game. But let's talk about the things that are happening right now in the meta that make aggro overperform in Eternal. And I kind of want to cover some of the phenomenon that I've been seeing and some of the counters that you can implement that will easily fix or tamper down that win rate. First thing is ratioing, right? So a lot of the lists that I see right now on Runeterra AR are kind of janky. I can't use another word to describe it other than janky. So I'm going to give you an example. Talking about something like Thresh Nasus, there are a lot of Thresh Nasus should never lose to Ziggs Poppy. Just in terms of, like, my experience with playing against people who run the deck, it's actually an exceptionally strong counter to Ziggs Poppy specifically. And the reason for that is very, very simple. It has a lot to do with effective chumpers, having some of the most effective chump cards in the format, so Vile Feast, having access to the likes of Fading Icon, which, again, when I say janky, I'm saying that the ratioing is very loose for some of these tools, right, that are very, very important. Ravenous Butcher, of course. So the thing that makes Thresh Nasus good, traditionally speaking, just like if I was going to tell you straight up, why is this deck good into Ziggs Poppy? It is, Fading Icon on 2, 100% of the time. It is, Wings in the Wave going 2 wide with Chumpers 100% of the time. It is the likes of Vile Feast, and it is the likes of Quietus or Soul Harvest, depending on your preference, allowing you to remove a Poppy on curve or use it to just kill a 2-mana card. These are the kind of tools, definitively speaking, that should make your Thresh Nasus deck exceptionally reliable into aggro. Just, like, definitively speaking, that if you were to take this deck from kind of a janky, equally good into every single matchup, and you were just like 100%, I know that Ziggs Poppy is the best deck in the format, it is winning 100% of games, what could you do to essentially take it from into the territory where you're winning more games? And a lot of that just has to do with ratioing. I can't lie to you. If you just shore up some of this ratioing, like, you're just like, okay, I've got my 1-drops here and my creature spam shell, I've got, my soul harvests and my vile feasts, and then, like, my death's grasps, etc. If, maybe you're just like, I don't even need Rite of Negation because people aren't running spells properly right now. I don't need Spirit Leech for the extra draw. I don't need Castigate. Obviously, Atrocity you keep to kill the Nasus. But there is so much room here to just like 100% say that I'm just going to be the anti-aggro player, right? I'm just going to play Thresh Nasus in an anti-aggro sort of shell. And there's just going to be very, very little that opponents could do when they're piloting Ziggs Poppy. There's very little that they're going to be able to do into you. Now you're obviously sort of like prejudicing your. You're gonna have a harder matchup into like Eddie. The Vile Feasts will be useless into Eddie, but you're making the call right now that aggro is overperforming. So like this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, where like yes, janky lists and janky and loose ratioing is really good if you're trying to target all the matchups at once. You just want an answer to every single scenario. But when you're talking about ladder stats, the reason why Ziggs Poppy is winning 100% of games is because it is firm ratioed and it knows what it's doing. That's the only reason why it's winning 100% of games. And then all these jank lists you see on Runeterra AR right now, they're just getting destroyed statistically. Like absolutely nom-nommed on. Like they're just getting eaten alive. There's no other reason why Ziggs Poppy should be winning as much as it is right now, except that all the fresh blood from Standard are building decks wrong. They're just falling apart under pressure, consistent pressure, right? And that's true. Even as a bad player, when I went to top 100, I was probably winning 75% to 80% of games with Ziggs Poppy very easily. It was a very high climb rate. I'd probably win 3 games and then lose 1 game. So like 75% auto win rate with Ziggs Poppy to top 100 Masters was a very easy thing for me to do at the time. And we're seeing now that when it's done by the best player, it's literally 100% win rate. They're winning 4 out of 4 games consistently. Now, so the only thing that's really changed there is that when I was climbing before, there would have been better, competition against the deck, which does not exist now because there's too much jank. So let's talk about other things. So part of it is loose ratioing. We've kind of covered why loose ratioing is bad in Eternal if you cannot answer certain decks consistently. The other thing is board clear allergy. So board clear allergy is a very straightforward thing that standard players do, where they just don't like board clears. So again, keep in mind, you have your Bladed Ravines, you have your Avalanches. When your opponent just plays triple 1-drop, you just snap board clear that, and you basically trade, you kill 3 of their cards, and then it costs you 1 of your cards. So again, snapping board clears, very, very important. The other thing you don't see is snapping on curve removal, right? So like say you're in like P and Z and you see Poppy come down, say if you're Jinx, you're snapping Get Excited. If you're not Jinx, you're snapping not Built Over Peacemaker, but the landmark removal Aftershock, right? So like you're snapping Aftershock, you're snapping Get Excited in P and Z to kill the Poppy. And for the small things, you should be snapping pings, right? Like your deck should always have a full complement of pings to potentially kill 1-drops. These are just like the fundamental need to have to play Eternal as a format. And I've gone over this before on the channel and people still don't seem to be getting it. Because you had Malagos literally complaining that like, I can't play Eternal. And it's like, well, I don't know Malagos personally. I don't have a lot of experience playing against him, but you have to understand that Standard, you can pilot anything to 70% and it can be just loose ratioing jank. And then in Eternal, the bar to pass competitiveness is very, very high. It's a very, very high bar to pass in order to be competitive in Eternal. Even in Eddie, right, you're making the hard call to be like, I'm on triple Pioneer, triple Tavern Keeper. That's a ratioing call. That is firm ratioing on healing and more healing. And then on top of that, maybe you're like Bladed Ravine. And like, well, yeah, you will just like, every single time that you run into Ziggs Poppy and you're running triple Tavern Keeper, triple Pioneer, and then like Bladed Ravine and Avalanche, like you can just play Matron Spam on 8 when you're done with all the anti-aggro tech, right? Like you can just do your Matron Spam on 8 after you've done all of that stuff. Nothing's stopping you. So this is the kind of thing you want to think of when you're playing Eternal as an experienced player in the format, as an intelligent player in the format. Let's say you're playing Gangplank Sejuani. If you're playing Gangplank Sejuani, you might want to be on Make It Rain, right? Like you actually might, unironically, you might want to be on Make It Rain as a tech choice. Because again, typically mid-range plunder should actually have a pretty decent matchup against Ziggs Poppy, unless you are specifically playing a jankier version of Gangplank Sejuani with a ton of loose ratioing that isn't designed to stand up to appropriate amounts of pressure. The other thing that I see too much of from standard players is too much reliance on chumpers. So, you know, House Spider is good in something like a Ziggs Poppy deck because you have Brothers Bond, because you have Poppy herself to potentially make these little chumper units bigger, and that makes for a better swing. But in an other deck, you know, you're just not going to have, it's not that good to just play a bunch of bad chumpers. Conchologist is okay because it can draw you a ping, but if your entire game plan is to not snap or move things and just play a bunch of chumping bodies, you're going to have a bad time. Junk Construct is like one of the better ones. Conchologist is one of the better ones. You see this in Swain Nora where it's like you chump something, but then you get another chumper later. And you also turbo out your win condition, and then you also draw it off your pokey stick. So like something like Junk Construct is good. Something like Conchologist is good. Nora cycling in portals is good. So like these types of chumpers are proactive in many respects. Same thing with like Darkness and like Dark Bulb Alkalite. That's like a proactive chumper that does something. A lot of people in Standard just play chumpers for chumpers' sake, and then they don't understand why they get run over by Ziggs Poppy. Because you're not responding to threats, you're just going as wide as your opponent, which is sometimes not enough. Other thing, healing, right? Just like healing, it's a keyword. Put it in the deck builder and just like look at stuff that has healing. So I just say heal. I think sometimes it's a little picky about the heal. So you know, Cosmic Youngling, traditionally one of the best Ziggs Poppy counters. Guiding Touch. You know, this is just Targon, but there's so much healing that's actually available in the game that people just aren't running. I remember when I was playing specifically Rise, like you try to make a slow Ionia deck work. On set, you're going to be on Smooth Mixologist. On Rise, you're probably on Ritual of Renewal, and if you're not on these cards, you're going to have a bad time. To quote South Park. So like this is just experience with the format, that like if you're a slow deck, you need to run healing to not instantly get run over by a lot of board-based aggro. And if you're running, that's the main thing right there. So like top end Eddie, Tavern Keeper plus Pioneer. Top end set, you're definitely on Mixologist. You want a playable Rise, you're probably on Ritual of Renewal. Or Health Pot, for maybe you just don't even worry about the cycling if you think there's enough draw in there. You need it. You need it to play the format. I'm sorry guys, but you need it. Chumpers and going as wide as your opponent with junk followers is not good enough to compete with top 100 players running aggro decks. They will run circles around you. They will literally just win 100% of games. They just won't lose to you. Period, full stop. The other thing that I've tried to emphasize before and nobody believed me is that in casual, casual tends to prioritize hand states, right? So like one person can be playing Ziggs Poppy in casual, and then another person can be playing like, you know, some sort of total junk brew. And like it tends to even out, you know, so everyone can have fun. It tends to prioritize certain hand states in casual. On ladder, it doesn't do that. And so you'll notice that the most consistent ratioing and the most consistent deck builds piloted by the best players are just better than you. And they're so much better than you that it's almost laughable, right? Like, I can't really phrase it any other way. So, again, in terms of like fully reviewing what we discussed, so that Ziggs Poppy is not winning 100% of games against fresh blood streamers, ratioing, even ratioing, knowing the matchups you're targeting, run the right removal cards, snap answer threats, and then include board clears, and then include healing. So if you do those 6 things, you're going to have a much better time in playing the Eternal format. If you don't know what I'm talking about because you haven't been playing the game since like Mogwai was around, or Swim was around, or any of this sort of old school LOR knowledge and tech, if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of the fundamentals of the game, you're going to lose 100% into the players that do know those fundamentals of the game. And because again, Ziggs Poppy hasn't changed. the list is card for card the same as it was, 3 Eternal Seasons ago or 4 Eternal Seasons ago. Nothing about it's changed. But now it's gone from, a 56% win rate to a 100% win rate. Well, that's just bad players. I can't put it any other way. It's good players feasting on bad players who don't understand traditional LOR. Because at the end of the day, you can't be mad at Eternal. Eternal is LOR, like, as a card game. It is all of the cards that have ever been in the game and will ever be in the game. So you can't be mad at that. The only thing you can be mad at is not understanding what cards to include and how to play the game. So that you need to play standard so that you have a chance by limiting the accessible card pool and limiting the accessible champions so you don't instantly get run over. Because again, like Ziggs is standard legal, Zed is standard legal, is Vex standard legal? Yeah, there might not be a great 4-mana card. Yeah, you could actually run Ziggs Vex right now in standard, and I guarantee that you could run over people pretty well. There might not be as many legal 1-drops. Let's see. Beard is legal. He's pretty important, but you might not have like Legion, Grenadier, and a lot of the Noxus stuff that's important. No, okay, so yeah, that's what's not available. Is basically you're falling apart to Noxus 1-drops because they're not standard legal right now. And that's just like inexperience with the game. Because anyone that's been playing the game long enough, they know Legion Rearguard exists and that you can play 3 of them by turn 2. If you have been playing LOR as a format for as long as most of us have, or at least I thought so, you would know that triple Legion Rearguard by turn 2 is actually a real thing. And then you would know that Decimate on 6 is always happening. So all you have to do is learn how to deal with like triple 1-drop, Decimate. And then the stuff that happens in the middle is basically Ziggs or Poppy, on 3 and 4. And that's all you need to know. Triple 1-drop, Ziggs, Poppy, Decimate. And if you can learn how to counter that exact line of play every single game, then you're going to help even out the odds so that you're not just getting moonwalked on by every experienced player in the format. This is Eternal King, signing out.